This client story started as what looked like normal seasonal email pressure and turned into a serious revenue problem. The client was a large retailer with very high email send volume. Email was not just one channel in the mix, it was the primary revenue driver, especially during the window from Black Friday through the end of the year, when volume spikes are expected and planned for. From their perspective, nothing felt unusual. They were running promotions, layering in additional campaigns, and increasing frequency the way they had in prior years. But this time, something was different, and it mattered. What started to surface were inbox placement warnings. Not catastrophic at first, just indicators that something was off. Then it escalated, fast. They were completely blocked by Outlook. No sending, no partial throttling, a full shutdown. And this was not a short outage. The block extended through the holiday period when email revenue mattered the most. And the impact was immediate. Email ROI dropped. Revenue forecasts had to be revisited. Teams were scrambling, and not just marketing, but leadership, because one of their most reliable growth channels was suddenly unavailable for a significant portion of their audience. And the hardest part was, from the outside, it was not at all obvious why this happened in the first place. At first, this looked like a tooling or an ISP relationship issue. The assumption was that Outlook had overreacted, or that something needed to be fixed on the provider side. Maybe a support ticket, maybe a temporary exception. But that framing completely misses the point. Email platforms do not block senders randomly, and they do not care about your revenue calendar. They respond to signals, and those signals build over time. What the client experienced as a sudden failure was actually the result of patterns compounding quietly in the background. And here's where our role shifted from investigation to advisory. When we walked the client through what we were seeing, it became clear that this was not about a single campaign or a one-time spike. It was about how their email system responded to change. The increasing volume collided with existing patterns of soft bounces and engagement signals that had not been actively governed. Multiple high volume sends overlapped, and Outlook interpreted that as risky behavior. So the reframe for the client was especially important. This was not an outage to recover from. It was a deliverability operating model gap. And without addressing that gap, any short-term fix would only recreate the same risk later. The first priority was stabilization. Because we already had monitoring tools in place, we could immediately see where the breakdown was happening. That allowed us to engage with Outlook through the right channels and understand exactly which signals triggered the block. From there, recovery was deliberate. We implemented controlled throttling, starting with small, highly engaged segments. Every send was monitored because every result mattered. If we saw degradation, we pulled back. If results held, we expanded carefully. This was not a days-long fix. It took months, because once trust is broken at the ISP level, it has to be rebuilt slowly. At the same time, we addressed the underlying issues. We audited authentication and DNS settings. We reviewed feedback loops, sender scores, and blacklist exposure. We examined soft bounce, messages in detail, not just counts, but causes. We also put governance in place. Chronic soft bouncers were identified and suppressed automatically. Preference center logic was adjusted so recipients had real control over frequency. Send patterns were reviewed so overlapping campaigns did not unintentionally amplify risk. And this was not treated as a one-time cleanup. The client moved into a regular deliverability audit cadence, so issues surfaced early, while they were still easy to correct. That shift turned deliverability from a fragile risk into a managed capability. Over time, Outlook removed the block. Sending was restored, inbox placement stabilized. Today, deliverability metrics remain consistently in the green. Issues still surface occasionally because email ecosystems change, but they are identified early and they are handled before they escalate. More importantly, confidence was restored. Email is no longer a channel leadership worries about during peak moments. It is monitored, governed, and trusted, and that trust translates directly into predictable performance. This is where B2B teams often dismiss the risk too quickly. Most of our clients are B2B organizations with lower send volumes and longer buying cycles. That can create a false sense of security. But deliverability is not just about volume. It is about consistency, engagement signals, and how your systems behave when something changes, such as a launch, a regional push, or a sudden increase in campaign activity. If deliverability only gets attention when email breaks, the risk is already there. Regular audits turn deliverability from a reactive scramble into a managed capability. And that applies just as much in B2B as it does in retail.